What's up, guys? It's the 26th. Happy Monday. 10:45. I'm gonna stream and I'm gonna get in an hour and like 15 minutes of coding, and I'm gonna go to the gym. So it's 26, 10:45. Where are we picking up? Where we left? Let's see. So we left off last week. It was last Friday. Let's see. Began solving next game bug, circular import issue, figured out almost certain solution but did not implement. Okay, yeah, so we had pinpointed, put in things to do, I remember. Here we go, game, custom timeless, circular import. Have to make custom timeless instances in GamePy into regular placeholder lists, then add code and setup, which instantiates those lists via reassignment as custom timeless instances. After importing both of them to the file, this should solve the circular import issue. So yeah, that was a circularity thing, and we're gonna change it to a convergence of two different. Yeah, we can't circularly import, so we'd close all these files. Let me make sure that my stream is working. Got that Ethernet connection now, so there's no excuse for my Wi-Fi to cut out because I don't have Wi-Fi. And there I am. I don't hear anything. Okay, there it goes. Close all these files. Let me make sure. Yep, it's working. Cool. And it was my daughter's birthday and my mother's birthday yesterday. We had a good day. And then my son's birthday is on the 4th, so it's right around the corner. And so next weekend we're gonna be going to the zoo. They have a little mini water park at the zoo now, so we're gonna be doing that. I have to buy tickets for that, as a matter of fact. We actually ended up just going to the mall and the arcade yesterday in Baton Rouge. It was pretty fun. Arcade like jibbed me out at like $5 though. They had some messed up machines, and you know how arcades, it's like hectic, you know, with 3 kids trying to keep track of everyone. Anyway, alright, so let's jump in. It's actually 10:50, so I'm gonna just put 10:50 because I was jabbing at the jaw, wasn't actually coding. So we'll say 10:50. So let's go ahead and let's read this one more time. Make custom timeless instances in GamePy into regular placeholder lists. So let's open up the game file, and so here we have these two instances, these lists, clickable card list and clicked cards list. They are currently custom timeless instances, but that is an issue because this is the game file. We import custom timeless, but in custom timeless we import game, so that's circular importing. You're importing one into the other, and yeah, it just can't do that. So I try to think of like a couple kind of ghetto solutions. I tried to move around like the imports. I know sometimes you can put an import like inside of a function call, and that will fix the issue. Like depending. You just take one more look to see if there's something like that we can do real quick. But it's really not a big deal. I do the same thing with all the custom append lists, which is another custom type of list that I use. So really this is not anything outside of the norm for what I've done throughout the entire project. Why is this not staying open? This is, you aggravate me. There we go. Okay, so let's put these over here. So the option here would be, okay, so we have to have game to assign the game object, right? And that is for data transfer function. And hold up, let me see something real quick, because I'm curious about what exactly is the game object for. It's for data transfer function. It's the game object. What is game object here? We individually assess, instead of checking if adder, name, string, and time to, we individually assess each data transfer function called throughout the project to pass game object equals none in the case it's not in TimeTube. Therefore, all we need to check for in this function to determine if adder is in TimeTube is to see if game object is not equal to none. Let's see what game object. It says game object is the game object in the case that the adder name being updated is in the client.timetube. The game object in the case that the adder name being updated is in the client timetube to update the associated timetube timestamp. I don't like this actually. I don't like that I did this. So I changed this to where instead of checking if the explicitly to check explicitly if the adder name string is in the time tube. See, we have the time tube here. That's why we have the time tube in this file. Is that the only? See that? See, so we actually have dead code in this file right now because of this, because of that change we made. And I guess I made that change. I'm trying to think, why did I make that change? Was there like another reason other than just saving a little bit of, I don't know, like I'm not sure if I really save anything doing that. As a matter of fact, passing in the game object and handling the game object probably almost certainly has more overhead than just checking to see if this variable, the adder name string, is in a tuple, a list of or in a tuple. So yeah, this is silly. I'm gonna change this back to how it was, and that will get rid of that circular import issue. So that's why I knew this always worked before, meaning this, having these be custom timeless instances off the bat. The reason that they don't work anymore is because we started to import the game objects into this custom time list so that we could assign this game object upon the instantiation of the custom time list, and then this game object would be passed to the data transfer function. Um, and the only reason we do that is so that we can check against, we're just checking to see if game object is none, and if it's not none, then we know it is a time tube adder. So, but does that mean that every transferred game object is a time tube? Well, this is going to be easy to figure out. We just have to yeah. So I noticed I have a difference here between clicked card and skeleton clicked card. The time tube has it listed as clicked card. So the reason for that is because we okay, so I need to verify this. This is gonna yeah, I need to figure this out. We're gonna put below line and the date 6 clicked. Can't type it all. Clicked card, and what's the other one? There was another one, I think. Skeleton clickable card list, skeleton clicked cards list. Okay, so the only difference here, yeah, it's just clicked card. Okay, so clicked card versus skeleton clicked card. Which namespace belongs here, and also is all associated logic references correct? Yeah, so I need to review that. But first, let's go one step at a time. So we're gonna fix this. We're gonna take out this game object thing, because this is just a dumb implementation. It's not explicit, it's weird, it's more like, I don't know what I was thinking. Don't you hate that? It's kind of sad when you look back and you think, what were you thinking? Like, why did I do that? It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes you forgot what you were thinking, you know? Sometimes you were right and you forgot. You realize, like, you go to fix it again, you're like, oh, what was I thinking? And then you remember, oh, okay, yeah, there was like this other big, like, good reason. And then sometimes, though, like in this instance, I'm pretty sure this is one of those where it's just like, that wasn't a good choice. I could have done something different. I could have made a better choice. So we're gonna go over to this function, data transfer function. We're gonna get rid of the game. So here, let me put a note so I don't forget. Below. Hold on, I have to fix my keyboard here real quick. So I have like a newish setup with my keyboard and everything, and I'm still getting used to it. Below function. Let's see. 624. And let's say removing game object param because it was dumb. Ensure we modify all function calls. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna remove the game object parameter completely, and we're gonna get rid of this note which says instead of checking if da 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 da. And actually, I'm gonna copy this real quick. If attr name string is in time to, because we're gonna use that. I'll just go ahead and paste it right there. Instead of checking that we individually assessed each stitch and fault throughout the project to pass game object equals not in the case it's not in time to. Therefore, all we need to check for in this function to determine if that is in time to see if game object's not equal or not. Yeah, that was a dumb. That was a dumb decision. Okay. So now let's copy this line. Go down here. So don't I have to import the time tube then using the global keyword? I think so. Yeah, I believe that's the case. Okay, so now we just simply check if the adder name string is in the time tube. If it is, then handles skeleton clickable card list, skeleton click cards list to chop off skeleton from the namespace for the time tube timestamp, since we don't handle those in terms of skeleton namespaces. If skeleton is in adder name string versus if adder name string 009 is equal to skeleton, in is much faster, so just okay, yeah. String equals adder name string. The next 9 onward chops off skeleton, and then we set the adder of the game object, and we actually I didn't see that part. So we do use the game object, but that's okay. That's fine though. We can just, so we already passed the hold up. If adder name string is in time tube, okay. That's all good. But then right here, when we do set adder, we do need the game object. So we would still pass the game object. So we can just leave the game object param actually. The game object equals the game object in the case the game, the adder name being updated is in the client time tube to update the associated time tube timestamp. Not really a fan of this. Just not. Sorry. Okay. Kinda cringy. Okay. Why am I still sleepy? Like I took my caffeine and everything. I'm still like sleepy though. Game object param because it was dumb. So actually it wasn't dumb. So there was a dual purpose of having it. Okay. Well, wait a second then. So wait, hold up. So then that means if we do pass in, if we, okay. So I jumped the gun here. I think we actually, it is smarter to leave it. Well, wait, no. Hold up, man. I'm losing it here. Okay, here we go. So custom time list imports the game object. Okay. So custom time list calls this data transfer function. It imports the game object, and then we use that game object to pass to the data transfer function, which is from change attribute list. So really, I think what we should do is we can leave this file basically as it was before I messed with it, where we check if game object is not equal to none. And what we can do, I think, is change it to game ID instead of game object, and then we can import because we have to have that game object to set the adder right here. To set the adder, we have to have access to that game object. And the only way that we would have the game object is if it either is imported here or if it is passed in through a function call as an argument. And currently it is passed in as an argument from custom time list. But doesn't that happen? Let me control Z all this. I'm just gonna go back to how it was before I touched it. All the way back. Alright, now let's see. Let's see what I change here. I didn't make any changes there. Just wanna step back for a second, make sure I'm not screwing this up. Okay. So let me check custom append list, because if I'm using this in custom append list as well, the data transfer function, then yeah, so custom append list does the same thing. Okay, man. Alright. Yeah, everything is like delicate, man. You can't touch it without breaking it. Oh, okay. Let me just zoom back out here. The issue is the circular import. That's the problem. We're importing it. So Custom time list and custom append list are both import game. They both use the same functionality. They pass the game object through the so we still wanna import this P1 game, P2 game. We still want to import P1 and P2 game. Because otherwise, how would we get this P1 and P2 game? That means instead of assigning it here, we would have to pass it as an argument, which means we have to whenever we call data transfer function, my brain's just not working right now. I think I'm just gonna do the easy option that I said I was gonna do at first. So we import P1 P2 game here in custom time list so that we can assign the game object in these method calls. Okay. Now if we were to not import P1 and P2 game here, that means we would have to pass the game object through append. Yeah. And that was how we did it before. Isn't that? Yeah, we did that before. We passed the game object every time we would call append. And like, I'm pretty sure that was really tedious. Yeah. That was really tedious, if I remember correctly. So we don't want to do that because that's like even more passing. Obviously we want to pass less. Like adding in all those parameters and stuff is really will bog you down, and it will slow you down your process, like the coding process, not the actual application. So game object, this I'm gonna leave as it is. So we're not gonna modify this at all. And it'll be fine. What we are gonna do to fix this issue, we're gonna do the easy option. We're gonna go to game. Let let me just check this real quick, make sure. Yeah, so I did undo all the changes that I made today. I don't want to make those changes. I actually did, like, this actually is fine. We do need the game object here because we have to have it to assign the attribute of the game object. Otherwise, we would have to pass that game object in. Well, we do, but like, so I was thinking, okay, well, what if we didn't import it into custom time list and then we imported it here, but custom time list custom time list actually has custom time list doesn't actually need P1 and P2 game. Technically, all we have to do here is have the ID. And then instead of passing in the game object as an argument, we could pass in the game object ID. Now let me make sure I got that right. So custom time list, we're importing P1, P2 game. That is a problem because game imports custom time list. So we have a circular importing. Okay. We changed this import, and then we changed this assignment right here. Game object, we just wouldn't assign that. We already have the ID, which is sufficient to be a placeholder for the actual game object, which means then, let me make sure there's not another place, like there's not another reason why we use game object here. Okay, and there's not. So then instead we would pass the ID game object. So instead of this game object parameter, game object ID, and we would just make it equal to, which is more performant because it's just an integer instead of an entire object. Then we also don't have to import that object, which is more performant, and it's, you know, it's more simple. It's like it's just, there's, you know, less importing is better, obviously. So less is better. Game object ID equal to ID, and then when it goes to this data transfer function here in attribute list, this would be changed to game object ID. And in this file, we would then import P1 and P2 game, because we do have to have P1 and P2 game either through a string of argument passing, through direct import. And if, like, the start point is A and the end point is B, or C rather, and we need the game object at the endpoint C, why not just import it directly to C instead of passing it from A to B to C? You know, it makes more sense to just like pass a piece of it, which is just the ID, which is smaller, it's simpler, it's easier, it avoids the circular import issue, accomplishes the same goal without having to like modify any logic. It's just changing a couple names around. So that I think would fix the issue. Yeah, so custom time list, or yeah, we starting custom time list. Game doesn't have to be changed at all. Game is fine. Game, the only issue with game was that it imported custom time list, but since we're about to remove the game import from custom time list, game is not going to have that circular import issue because game's going to be importing custom time list. Custom time list is not going to be importing game, so we've solved that problem. And yeah, so this is just going to be game object ID. It's going to get passed to change attribute list.data transfer function. So we're going to go into here. The game object is going to instead be the game object ID, and we're going to assign game object's attribute by assigning the game object based on game object ID that we receive. We're going to have access to the actual game object because we're importing it directly into this file, point where we need it. So that might be a problem though if we're importing changed attribute list into game. Probably are, huh? Yep. So we can't import it there either. So we can't do that because that would be a circular import in another place. Okay, I see. So if we can't do that, if we can't yeah, because game imports change attribute list, because we definitely need C1 and C2. We need data transfer function. We need all this. Yeah, there's really no way around it. I don't think, because anything we import is going to cause the top of the script to run. But you know something I need to understand better is I know now that whenever we're importing a file or an object from a file, it runs all of the imports, the top section in the imported file, and I'm like, so do you need that to happen when it's imported? I would say that it seems like you would need it to be run to be able to use. Like, if you need these imports in the game file, then that means if you were to import anything from the game file that used any of these imports, then you would have to have these imports be run before you could use the imported game. Because, you know, that, how else would it know what that stuff is that if it's not imported and you're referencing it? So I don't, yeah, there's not really like, I was a little bit confused about that. It was, but it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that it would have to run, and that there's, if we were to put this in like an if name is equal to main, and then only when the game script was run directly, it would only, that's the only time it would execute these imports. That wouldn't be okay. That would be bugged because when we imported it, we would want to use functionalities within the import that would rely on these imports. So we can't restructure that to avoid the circular import issue. We can't the of P1 game from custom time list to change attribute list, because game not only imports custom time list, but it also changed attribute list as well. So we would have the same exact problem. It would just be located to a different file. So I think the actual only solution seems to be what I initially said. Kind of sucks because I just went through like 30 minutes debating about it, only to come back to the same solution and say, well, yeah, that looks like the only thing I can do, which is go into the game file and not importing some time list, because that's the least reliant. Like, that one bears the smallest weight. There's no real reason for us to import custom time lists there. The reason that we do that is so that we can initially assign the custom time list instance to one of these game attributes. Yeah, and no matter what, the game object has to make its way to the change attribute list. And if we imported it into the change attribute list, it would still be a circular import issue. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a note here that says can't import anything from game here because that yeah, it's worth having little notes like that, because circular imports can really be like, as you're witnessing right now, as I'm seeing right now, this is, you know, 30-40 avoided that if I would have had been on my P's and Q's initially and remembered, hey, I can't actually import that there. Okay, so yeah, I think the only solution is the initial one that we came up with, and that is to go to game and go to what is it? Time list. Yeah, it's just 3. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make this be a placeholder list. Okay. Now I'm gonna that out. I'm gonna paste this. And I thought the way that we did this was 1 is the new one and 2 is the one being replaced. I can't remember. But anyway, we'll just do it. 2 is the one being replaced. 1 is the one that is replacing. And this is going to be now just an empty list. Okay. And we'll just put placeholder, reassigned in setup. Has to be done this way to avoid importing anything from GamePy due to circular imports. Okay. So now let's open up setup. And I'm just gonna add this, I'll add it down here. There we go. And now we're gonna have to import P1 and P2 game. So just like we do that with player, we're gonna do from game, import P1 game, P2 game. Okay. Now we can go down here. Okay, now I'm going to copy this one. Set up. Now this is going to be P1 game. Okay, I just want to make sure that using this P1 game as the game time ballistics argument for this time adders dict is valid. Let's see, where's the init? tripping. I'm looking at the wrong one. So time adders dict. Oh, I'm an idiot. I messed this up here. Okay, so we're gonna have to import custom time list as well. Yeah. That was ugly code. Okay. Now. Now this is going to be a placeholder list. Oh, where's that? Yeah, I'm just going to copy this note from clickable cards list, clickable card list, and put it on clicked cards list. Placeholder reassigned and setup has to be done this way to avoid importing anything from GamePy due to circular imports. No, wrong. Custom time list. I'm getting there. Okay. So we have game, which no longer imports custom time list. So we can get rid of that. So now custom time list can import P1, P2 game without having a circular import issue, because game no longer imports it. And I'll put a new. Okay. So game no longer imports that. We have the card list. Okay. This is going to be transferred. Verified does need to be transferred, so we can put that. Guess we'll do it like this. Okay. And then transferred, verified does need to be transferred. Isn't that in the transferred list? Oh no, we don't transfer that because we transfer the skeleton clickable card list. butchered that. Okay, so that's mostly done now. We have self click cards is click cards list is now an empty regular list, which is has a note that says placeholder reassign and setup pi has to be done this way to avoid importing anything from custom time list pi due to circular imports. I'll even put previously we directly assigned to custom time list instance here, but we can't do that anymore. And this should actually be capitalized custom time list, and then same thing right here, same note. Okay, and so clickable card list is an empty list, and then clicked cards list is an empty regular built-in list class instance. So we have this old line, self click card list equals custom time list, name cards list. Time matters dict was assigned to self, and that to game. The game object time list dict. The ID is equal to self ID, which is game ID. So this would be P1 game right here. P1 game, and then ID equals P1 game ID. Same thing here is going to be P2 game instead of P1. Here we're going to do the same thing, which we could just say that this is going to be 1 and 2 for the ID. So instead of putting P2 game ID here, I could just literally put 1 or 2. Like definitely, I don't think we ever assign them to anything else. But just to be extra safe, I'll leave it as is. But I want to go look at this real quick. The game time listic. Let me look at that real quick. So that is area which references the current time for each associated custom time list instance. And that reference from setup should be fine. Like instead of it referencing from here, it referencing from setup. Shouldn't be an issue. But what I just realized is the game time listic mechanism to like this being a dictionary value and it's an immutable value immutable object. Wait. Okay, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's the actual. Wait, no, it is. Yeah, it is. It is the time of the clickable card list. It is not the actual clickable card list. So this is, yeah, this is an immutable object, which means this time value is never going to change if we expect it to by proxy of us changing this value at this namespace. So like if we reassign self.time clickable card list later on, it's going to reassign that variable, of course, that attribute, but it's not going to reassign this dictionary value because that's not how it works. So I'm going to put a note right here. I might have reviewed this already and it might be valid, and like I might already have this taken care of, but I want to double check. So we're going to put ensure immutable value dict vals below are properly reassigned, so this dict reflects current values of associated adders. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that is important and we're going to take care of that. But now a dictionary is a mutable value. So the dictionary itself being referenced from setup and all that, that is fine. We don't need to change that. Yeah, so we should be good. Now, as far as these being assigned to just regular lists off the bat instead of custom custom timeless instances, I mean, I'm pretty sure that should be no big deal because setup happens, like it's the first thing to happen. So I wouldn't expect that. So now game doesn't import custom time list. Custom time list imports game, which is fine. We removed the circular import issue. We made it to where the custom time list and the clickable card list and the clicked cards list are now placeholder regular lists upon instantiation of the game object. So we don't need custom time list anymore. Just making sure I removed all the... Okay, yep. So we took care of that. That's done. This file is fine. We didn't change anything here. Okay. and then we need to import custom time list here. So from custom time list, import custom time list, and that is importing the class. And now and it's okay that this one imports P1, P2 game, and then setup imports custom time list, which imports P1, P2 game, because that's not circular. That's like recursive, but it's not circular, and that's fine because since it's already been initialized or whatever, like it's not gonna have to initialize it again or whatever. I need to understand exactly like what happens in the background with that, I think a little better. Let's see. So Python, if one file imports another file, let's say if file 1 imports file 2 and file 2 imports file 3, but file 1 also imports file 3, that isn't circular importing, correct? Correct, that isn't a circular import. Circular import, this occurs when two or more modules depend on each other directly and indirectly, creating a loop. For example, file 1 imports file 2, and then file 2 imports file 1. Your scenario, file 1 imports file 2, file 2 imports file 3, file 1 also imports file 3. The setup does not create a loop or circular dependency because there isn't a direct or indirect cycle between the imports. File 1 and file 2 import file 3, but there's no back and forth loop between file 1 and file 2. So imports are fine and do not institute. Okay, so in my scenario, does file 3 get initialized twice? Rather, a module is only initialized once per interpreter session. When a module is imported for the first time, it is executed and initialized, and the resulting module object is cached. Subsequent imports of that module will use the cached module object rather than re-executing the module. In your scenario, file 1 imports file 2, file 2 imports file 3, file 1 also imports file 3. First import of file 3. When file 2 imports file 3, Python will execute file 3 and create a module object for it. The module object is then cached. Subsequent import of file 3. When file 1 imports file 3, Python checks its cache and finds that file 3 has already been initialized. Thus, Python uses the cache module object instead of re-executing file 3. As a result, file 3 is initialized only once. File 3 is initialized only once. Any subsequent imports of file 3 will reference the already initialized module, avoiding redundant execution. This paper excuse for parentheses to be erased from re-executing modules initializations a couple of times. Okay, thank you. Cool. Alright. Alright. Okay, so now I understand that fully. And then this time adders dict it's going to equal a dictionary, and of course a dictionary is a dict is mutable object. Yes, it takes a mutable object. I mean, you can change its content after it has been created. You can add, remove. Yeah, okay, cool. That's what I thought. I was just I already knew that, but Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, does this have to be game specific, or could it be like on a class level? But it does have to be game specific because it's going to be accessed by each independent thread, and it's gonna, you know, each one is gonna be different for the last time the custom time list instance was updated for the P1 game versus the P2 game. So this is all coded correctly. Um, it's just a question now. Well, importing the game and custom time list now into setup should be no big deal. But like, I will just space it off like that so I remember that's what the ones I just added. And actually, I'll just put them at the bottom. This to so they're last. The only thing in question now is the functionality of the game time listics. So this we're gonna go to things to do and options. Let's do. Okay. So let's put game time list dicts. And then date 8/26/4, and we'll put ensure proper functionality. So we had to fix that one. Okay, yeah, so alright, we're good now. I'm gonna go ahead and quit. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'll come back and I'm gonna finish the rest of this. So that is it be okay. And it should fix that problem. So yeah, I'm happy with it. We'll take a break. I'm gonna go to the gym, eat, take a shower, and then I'll be back in a little bit.